सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। So
इसमें है जग में इसमें है पानी। हाँ हाँ एप्पल उठा ले
please
बिल्कुल।
mute yourselves. Please mute yourselves. If there is anybody talking in the house or room, please do mute. It's disturbing the others. Okay. So in the last class, we said that this Brahman is a cause of great fear. And so that is going to be explained now. So we'll read the third mantra. Bhayadasyagnistapati.
Bhayadasyagnistapati.
Bhayatapati suryaha.
Bhayatapati suryaha.
Bhayalindrascha vayuscha.
Bhayalindrascha vayuscha.
Mrityurdhavati panchama.
Mrityurdhavati panchama.
Okay. So let us look at the words themselves. Bhayat. So that first word is Bhayat Asya Agni Tapati. Bhayat Asya Agni Tapati. So this, the fire burns. Agni Tapati. Fire burns. Asya Bhayat. Asya here refers to that Brahman. So the fire burns out of fear for this Brahman. Out of this fear of Brahman, the fire burns. Then in Bhayat Surya Tapati. The sun shines out of fear of this Brahman. Then Indraha Chavayuhu Bhayat. So you have to supply there. They function out of fear. Bhayat is fear. So Indra and Vayu also, they function out of fear. And Mrityuhu Panchamaha, the fifth one, that is Mrityuhu. Mrityuhu here is the speaker himself, Lord Yama. Mrityu, the fifth one, Dhavati Bhayat. He runs out of fear. Okay. Out of fear of Brahman, he keeps running. He has no time to relax at all. So what is this indicating? So the mantra indicates that Shastra says that everything in the universe is ordered by Easwaran. That Easwara is the supervisor of all the functions of the universe. And here, each of these devatas, what are they representing? They are representing the natural forces. So the understanding here is that Lord Yama is saying that all the devatas who are the presiding deities of the natural forces function only because of fear of Brahman. So because of the presence of Brahman, you have to understand. Ultimately, what is being said is that nothing in the universe can function without Brahman being present. And Brahman means here Maya Sahita Brahman. So without Ishvara being present, no natural force can function. So that is to be extracted from this mantra. The rest of it, running out of fear and functioning out of fear, it is only imagery. One should not literally, interpret it. It has to be interpreted as that the natural forces of the universe, which are represented by the presiding deities, they function only because of the presence of Brahman, presence of Ishvara. Okay, now we look at mantra number 4, which we will chant. Iha cheda chakad bodhum
Iha chedashatkat bodhum
Prak sharirasya visrasaha
Raksharirasya visrasaha
tata sargeshu lokeshu
Tatasargeshu lokeshu
sharirattvaya kalpate.
Sharirattvaya kalpate.
So, Chet. That Chet is where Chet Shakat. The Chet Shakat, the second word, has to be broken into Chet, that is Ta with a halan, Chet Ashakat Bodhum. So, Chet Ashakat Bodhum. If one manages to know that Brahman, where Iha, Iha represents this particular place in this earth, in this life. If you manage to know Brahman in this life while you are alive, so Iha Chet Ashakat Bodhum Iha. If you manage to become a Jivan Mukta in this life, and what is Iha? Prag Srirasya Visrasya. So that you have to say that Iha is described by Prag Sharirasya Visrasaha. So Visrasaha means fall, falling off. Prag means before, Sharirasya of this body. So if one manages to know Brahman before the fall of this body, it means you are talking about Jivan Mukti. Tataha, he becomes liberated. Okay, otherwise, what happens? Kalpate Shariratvayaha. He becomes fit for taking another body. Tataha means else or else. Or else is what? What else? If he does not know Brahman in this life, if he doesn't become a Jivan Mukta, then that Jiva, Sharirattvaya Kalpate, he becomes fit for taking another body, where Lokeshu Sargeshu, in the worlds of all other creatures. So he says creatures, which means it is not necessarily a human body, it can be any body. Now here the mantra is saying, or Yamraj is saying, that Jnanam requires a human birth, Manushya Janma only. Because the human being alone has the intelligence to inquire into the nature of things, what is known as Jiva Jagat Ishvara Vicharaha. There are three things which we are always presented with, which we always confront. What is that? Jiva, myself, Jagat, the universe, and Ishvara, the creator. So I, the universe, and the creator. This is what is known as the triangular format. I am always facing this. And Jivan Mukti can come only out of an inquiry into these three. And therefore, only the human being has the intelligence, has been gifted with the intelligence, has been blessed with the intelligence to be able to inquire into this Jiva Jagat Ishvara. So Jiva Jagat Ishvara Vichara is the domain of a human being alone. And implied here by the word Praksharirasya Visrasaha, before the fall of the body. Why does Yamraj say that you must, try to get Atmajnanam before the fall of the body? What is the implication? Why does he have this sense of urgency?
You might not be able to get a human birth again.
Exactly.
Next life.
So there is no guarantee that you will have a human birth again. Manusya Janma is not guaranteed. And therefore, since you have a Manusya Janma now, he says, Prak Sharirasya Visrasaha, before the fall of this body. Anyway, you've got a human body. Please ensure that you complete your spiritual project. The moksha you complete. All of us, in fact, the majority of us, we have lots of other duties. Only the sannyasi can say that he is available 100% for jnana. But grahastha has so many duties to your wife, to your children, to the society. So while all that is granted, Yamaraj is implying that there is a primary duty, and that is the duty to get moksha, the spiritual duty to yourself, which is to become a Jivan Mukta before the fall of the body. That is very important. And therefore, in the first line which says, Iha chedashakat bodhum prak sharirasya visrasaha, Shankaracharya adds one word. He says, samsara bandhana vimuchyate. He says, before the fall of this human body, the jiva must ensure samsara bandhana vimuchyate, that he is freed from samsara bandhanam. Vimuchyate means free of samsara bandhanam, is the bondage of samsara. So he must free himself from the bondage of samsara. Now, if you noticed, the next word is tataha. So tataha generally means what in Sanskrit? We have used it so many times. What is the general meaning of tataha?
Therefore,
Therefore, right? But here, Shankaracharya says that this tataha has to be taken as or else. And that is the explanation I used. Tataha or else, sargeshu lokeshu sharidatvaya kalpate. If you don't do that, do what? What the first line says. Know the Atma before the fall of the body. Then tataha or else sargeshu lokeshu sharidatvaya kalpate. You become eligible to be born again in the world of beings. Why is that so? Because the word chet is followed by ashakat. Chet means what? Ashakat. Ashakat means what? Ashakat means, the Sanskrit word is shaknoti, capable of knowing. Ashakat doesn't literally mean knows. It means capable of knowing. So the mantra says, if the person becomes capable of knowing, then he will know Brahman. Do you see a problem with that statement? It's like this gentleman. Let us say you find somebody who has got a problem with his lungs. Okay, he's wheezing away. And you meet him in the ashram and then you tell him, you should practice Kapalabhati. And he says, no, I can do 40 rounds of Kapalabhati daily. I am capable of doing 40 rounds of Kapalabhati daily. So you are surprised. If this chap is capable of doing 40 rounds of Kapalabhati daily, why is he having this lung problem? And then you ask him, okay, how many do you do daily? So he says, oh, no, I don't do anything. I am capable of doing 40 Kapalabhati. Do you see the difference? Being capable of knowing has to be equated to what? In the being capable of knowing Brahman, ashakat bodhum. Having the eligibility to know Brahman. That is what is meant by chet ashakata bodham. You have made yourself capable of understanding Brahman. What does that mean? What is that in our terminology? The capacity to understand the Shastra. Know Brahman. What does it mean?
Chitta Shuddhi.
Chitta Shuddhi. So you cannot say that mantra is saying that if you got Chitta Shuddhi before your fall of the body, because that is a little interpretation. Iha chet ashakat bodhum prak sharirasya visrasaha. If you have got Chitta Shuddhi, you are not Jivan Mukta. Is it not? And therefore, Shankaracharya adds over here, and Janati. He adds the word Janati also. So he is saying that not only have I got Chitta Shuddhi, which means that I have become eligible, I have got Sadhana Chatushtayam, but I have also done Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam, and therefore I have completed the process. It's a very technical point, but Shankaracharya adds over here, Janati. Therefore, I thought it's worth a mention. And that is why the mantra says, and Yamraj says, that having got a human body, it is your primary duty to gain Atmajnanam before the body goes. Because there is no guarantee that you will be born again as a human being on this earth. Okay. Now the question is, can Jnanam be gained only in this loka, only in Bhuloka? That is a question. And the answer, it's a question which Nachiketas could have asked, but he didn't ask. But Yamraj, being a good teacher, anticipates questions. So Yamraj thinks that Nachiketas might ask this question. You are saying to get knowledge right here before the body falls. Is it not possible to get this knowledge in the next loka? That could be a possible question. And therefore, the next mantra, Yamraj, answers that question. So, mantra number 5. Yatha darshe tatatmani.
Yatha darshe
यथा दर्शे
tathatmani.
तथात्मनि
Yatha swapne tatha pitraloke.
यथा स्वप्ने तथा पितृलोके
Yathapsu parivadadrashe.
यथा दृष्टे
Tatha gandharvaloke.
Tatha
तथा
gandharvaloke
गन्धर्वलोके
Chaya tapayor eva brahmaloke.
Chaya tapayorev brahmaloke.
ब्रह्मलोके.
Okay. So, look at the second line. Pariva dadrashe. One sees. One sees what? What are you seeing here? What is the discussion? You can't forget the last verse. What is the discussion? What is the topic we are discussing?
Jnanam has to be got before falling.
Jnanam has to be got before. Okay, so pariva dadrashe means one gets the jnanam, one sees the Atma in several ways. Okay, so look at the words. Yamraj is saying that there are other lokas where jnanam can be gained. This is a possible answer. And he gives the answer over here. Gandharva loka, Pitraloka, Brahma loka. What is the fourth loka?
Brahmaloka, Satya.
No, I said Brahma loka. I said Gandharva loka, Pitraloka, and Brahma loka. They are given here.
Oh, and then Ihaloka.
Ihaloka, which is Bhuloka. Okay, so though not mentioned, we should not forget that there are Yamraj is referring to 4 lokas where jnanam can be gained. And in the second line, he gives in the mantra, he gives the others. He says Pitraloka, he says Gandharva loka, and he says Brahma loka. Those 3 names are given. You have to remember that Manushya loka is also an option. Okay. So, if you can get knowledge in other lokas, then why struggle over here? Right? So he says, look at the words. Manushya loke. This is Manushya loka. He has not mentioned it, but this is Manushya loke. So yatha adarshe, like in a mirror. What does it mean? Yatha adarshe. You have to assume it's a clean mirror. So when you see your face in a clean mirror, the face is reflected nicely and you see the face without distortions. So the first one, Yatha Adarshe Atmani. Tatha Atmani. So Atmani here means in the human, it's not the Satchit Ananda Atma, it means the intellect. Tatha Atmani. So Yatha Darshe Tatha Atmani. As you see in Manushya Loka, your face in a clean mirror, which is a clear understanding of the face, in the same way that Atma Tatha Atmani in the human buddhi is understood very clearly. And here he doesn't supply many other things. You have to add how do I get the sort of intellect which will understand the Atma? Karma yoga, upasana yoga. Karma yoga, the mind will be clear and the mirror needs to be steady, and therefore upasana yoga, the mind will be steady. So in Manusya Loka, Yamaraj is saying the knowledge is clear and like the clear reflection in the mirror, the knowledge will be clear in your mind. Then yatha swapne tatha pitraloke. In Pitraloka, how is it? Yatha swapne, like a dream experience, right? So what is a dream experience? Even the most vivid of all dreams are not remembered very long, and mostly for us when we wake up, the dream experience is a very vaguely remembered experience, fleeting experience. And therefore he says that in Pitraloka, the jnanam is a bit vague, not very clear. So Shankara adds in his commentary, the jnanam is aviviktam vasana bhutam. Means he says it is unclear vasana in the mind. Because vasana is generally not very well known since they are in the subconscious. That is why we are not able to very clearly recognize our vasanas. So he says, aviviktam vasana bhutam. The knowledge is like those vasanas in your mind, which you can generally not understand very clearly. And what kind of vasanas are they? They are generated by the Jagrata Avastha. So all vasanas, Shankara reminds us, any vasana in your mind, any impression in your subconscious has to come only from the experiences in the waking state. And while the experiences in the waking state can be very, very clear, very, very objective, once the vasana resides in your subconscious mind, then it becomes unclear. And especially if it is vasana from previous births, you are not privy to the Jagrata experience. And therefore you have very faint, very fleeting glimpse into what that vasana is. It's extremely unclear. So, aviviktam, very, very unclear vasana it will be. Just like that unclear vasana which happens in your dream, from which the dream is born, similarly, in Pitraloka, the knowledge is also so very unclear. Okay, so he's giving a gradation. He's saying that Manusya Loka, in this world, the knowledge is extremely clear. In Pitraloka, it is very unclear. And in Gandharva Loka, okay. So here the word, if you see, Yatha Apsu Pariva Dadrishe. So Pariva has two parts, Pari and Eva. The second word of the second line is Pariva. Now this is a little peculiar Sanskrit grammar. So if you look at the word Pariva in the dictionary, you will not find. But if you break it up, one is Pari and one is Eva. And that Eva you have to take out, and Pari you have to connect to the next word, Dadrishe. Okay, so it becomes Pari Dadrishe. Eva means just like. So Pari Dadrishe means one sees what? The Jnanam or the Atma, Eva, just like. Like what? Like an image in the water, unclear reflection. So the water is also moving, and since the water is moving, there are waves. So while the image is there, you cannot clearly see the image. So that's why he says Yatha Apsu Eva. Apsu is the waters. Eva means like the reflection seen in the water. Yatha Apsu Eva Pari Dadrashe. One sees the Atma as one sees one's reflection in moving water. The reflection is there, but it is not clear because the water itself is moving. The waves distort the reflection. And just like that, the knowledge obtained in Gandharva Loka is vague knowledge. Okay. And why is that so? So some Acharya writes that because in Gandharva Loka, what is the primary activity?
Enjoy.
Sorry?
Enjoy.
enjoy. Gandharvas are basically people who are supposed to be masters in dance and music. So you are enjoying all the time. Where is the time for proper study? Therefore, the knowledge is very vague also. And after all that, Shankara says that, okay, Yamraj has said these four lokas, but Shankara says, Loka antareshu api. Evam loka antareshu api. There are other lokas also where jnanam is possible. He does not name it, but he says evam. Just like this unclear knowledge in Gandharva loka, knowledge will be unclear in other lokas also. Then he comes to Brahma loka. Okay, what about Brahma loka? Chaya tapaha eva. What is chaya tapaha? Light and shade. So what we call black and white. The knowledge will be black and white. It will be very, very clear. Why? Because Brahmaji himself is the teacher. And therefore you cannot say that in Brahma loka, knowledge is not clear. It is going to be very, very clear as in Manusha loka. But what is the problem? So ultimately, out of the four lokas, Shankara says, okay, fine, Manusha loka is great, Brahma loka is great. So what is the problem?
It's also limited.
There's no guarantee that we'll go to Brahma Loka, but
Yeah.
you're already
There is
guaranteed
no
life.
guarantee that you will go to Brahma loka. If you remember chapter 8, there is a very exhaustive practice to be done. And the whole life, you have to do Saguna Ishvara Upasana. And thereafter, if you see the commentary of Shankaracharya on the 8th chapter, at the time of death, you should sit in Padmasana, you should withdraw all the senses to the heart, you should withdraw all the prana to the heart, then you should ensure that the Sukshma Shariram leaves through the Brahmandra, there. And therefore so many things. Then you have to catch the train going to Brahma Loka, all those things are there. And therefore, there is no guarantee that your Upasana and Karma Yoga have given you enough punyam to carry you to Brahma Loka. And therefore Shankara says in his commentary that while it is true that in both Brahma Loka and Ihaloka, this world, you can get clear and convict and jnanam with conviction. So clear jnanam with conviction can be obtained in both the worlds. However, in view of the fact that it is the Brahmaloka entry is rather dubious, we cannot guarantee that. Therefore, you are already here in Manushaloka. Out of the two lokas which give clear knowledge, you are already there in one loka in the human form, which is the required form for getting the knowledge. And therefore, Manushaloka is the best loka for gaining knowledge. This extraction is Shankara's. The mantra simply says, Yamraj simply says, there are two lokas where you can get the knowledge. So very interestingly, we should make the best opportunity of being here. There is no guarantee that we will go to Brahmaloka.
Acharya, I have a small question, may I ask?
Yeah.
Why is the example of these other Gandharva Loka and Pitraloka, etc. given? Because that knowledge is not really knowledge if it is not clear, then it is not really jnanam.
It is not jnanam. But the question is, can you get knowledge at all? You can get, but you can get unclear knowledge. And since it is being compared to a reflection, that's the reason why the examples are given. Unclear reflection, moving reflection, dull reflection. So those reflections are of absolutely no use to you for Jivan Mukti. What is being said is Jivan Mukti you can get. Sadhyo Mukti as it is called in this life, or Krama Mukti as it is called in Brahmaloka. Those two names, please remember. Sadhyo Mukti refers to Jivan Mukti in this life, and Krama Mukti refers to Mukti in Brahmaloka. Having said that, at this stage, as advanced Vedantic students, up till now, when you talk about Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti and all, it is great. But the fact is what? You are Brahman. Where is the question of any Mukti at all? Okay, so that is just a tidbit I'm leaving with you. All these Mantras are great, but behind that, always remember that when you say Jivan Mukti, it is not for you, not from your viewpoint as Brahman. From the Paramarthika viewpoint, there is no Jivan Mukti, there is no Videha Mukti. When somebody says Jivan Mukta, when somebody is Jivan Mukta, that is from a Vyavaharik viewpoint. Somebody else is saying that this person is a Jivan Mukta. Because when you say, I have become Jivan Mukta, you have said that I have become Brahman, an event in time. An event in time is lost in time. And therefore, from now on, even as we read these mantras, at the back of our mind, we should have a small smirk which says, I am Brahman, it's okay. Even if the body is reborn, so what? I am not bothered. I am Brahman. All right? So that again, you can put it in your pipe and smoke it. If the body is reborn, does it really matter to you? If you think you are Brahman. If you are not Brahman, then it's a big issue. Okay, now let us look at mantra number 6.
Om Raviji, this
Yes,
is a very deep thought to do lot of mananam on. That what are we here doing everything when we finally have to assimilate? We are Brahman, so we don't require any of this. But till then, yes, we have to keep.
see, the thing is that if you know you are Brahman, then you don't need Shastra.
Yes.
Shastram doesn't convert you into Brahman.
Yes, yes.
Shastram simply tells you that you are Brahman. Just own it up.
Right.
And that is why at this stage, when you are doing the second Upanishad, you should have the conviction that I am Brahman. And therefore, when you are reading this, at the back of your mind, that, you know what that sound is called, where in the background music, there's a sound. What is that? Tanpura, is it? When you do music, that Tanpura should be there. Aham Brahma Asmi.
Yes.
Anything you study, as long as you have Aham Brahma Asmi running at the background music, then whatever you do is fine. Never let go of that Aham Brahma Asmi. Going to Rishikesh and dipping in the Ganga is a great experience, especially in these months when the water is flowing very fast. So when you go from there you find that there are these huge iron rods driven into the river, into the river bank actually, and there are chains which are attached to the iron rods. And if you value your life, what you do is you wrap the chain around yourself or your hand, and then you step into the river. The moment you step into the river, your legs are lifted out. The flow takes your legs away and you're floating. If you're not holding on to that thing, you would float, you would go away. That samsara is something like the river. Vyavahara is that river, Vyavaharika. Therefore, you should have that Paramarthika chain attached. That Paramarthika chain is a Tanpura, Aham Brahma. Do everything that you do, enjoy your life, do your duties, love your children, love your parents, love your spouses. But remember Aham Brahma. Then everything is fine. The moment you forget that, the winds of samsara, they begin to beat you up.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's look at mantra number 6. Indriyanam Pritak Bhavam.
Indriyanam bhavam
Udayastamaya Uchayat.
udayat
Pritak Utpadyamananam.
prithagyamānānām
Matva dhiro na sochati. Okay, so it says matva, knowing what? Pritak bhavam, knowing the distinction of what? Indriyanam, the sense organs. What kind of sense organs? Prithak utpadyamananam, the sense organs which are born separately. And udayaha tamayaha, that we have to break that. Udayaha tamaya, the rise and fall. The rising, the setting, and the rising and the setting. Udaya tamaya, astamaya. So, udaya astamaya. Astam means to set. Udaya means to rise. So udaya stamaya, the rising and falling of the sense organs. If you know, then dhiraha, the intelligent person, the discriminative person, na shochati, he does not grieve. So what is the obstacle? See, we all know the Shastra says, Tattvamasi, I am Brahman. But how many of us convert the teacher's Tattvamasi into Aham Brahmasmi? What is the obstacle? So, whenever I use the word Aham Brahmasmi, the word Aham, you have to be extremely clear what you mean when you say Aham Brahmasmi. What that Aham is very important. And normally, because of the habits formed over thousands of lives, whenever I say Aham, I am talking about the body and the mind, and the body-mind sense complex, right? Karya, Karana, Sangataha. You, as long as the Aham refers to the limited body, remember that Aham Brahmasmi is a myth. You can never claim. Unless your idea is Aham means consciousness alone, then only can you say Aham Brahmasmi. But for 99.999% of human beings, Aham means the body, mind, sense complex. From that Vyavaharika point of view, it is Anatma Abhimana, being identified with the body, mind, sense complex. And that is the biggest obstacle for claiming Aham Brahmasmi. And therefore, our sadhana should be that you should weaken that Anatma Abhimana. That body-mind identification has to be regularly weakened. The weaker that identification is, the weaker your Anatma Abhimanam gets, the stronger is your usage of the word Aham Brahmasmi. So when the Jnani, the Jivan Mukta, uses Aham, not in Vyavaharika, right? Jnani also says Aham in two ways. When he wants food and he says Aham, he is referring to the body-mind complex only. When he is giving a class and he says Aham, he is referring to the Atman. So we are not talking about the Vyavaharika usage, we are talking about the usage of the Jnani in the real sense. Because even when the Jnani says that I want food, he knows that he is saying, using the I in the Vyavaharika sense, because that is the only way that he can communicate in this world. And the body needs to be fed. But when otherwise he says Aham Brahmasmi, he is using the word I to refer to himself as Atman. Okay, this can be easily understood. Like, I wear a dress. All of us wear dresses, right? Which we change every day. But whenever you say I, the I does not include the dress. So using the body is one thing. Using the dress is one thing. But claiming the dress as yourself is completely different. And similarly, using the body is one thing, but most of us claim that body as I myself. So altogether another thing, which you should not be doing, but you do it. What then is the most important preparation for Atmajnanam? The Anatma Abhimana renunciation. The renunciation of the identification with the body is one of the most important preparations that you can do. The more distanced you are from the body, the closer you are to Brahman. The closer you, the stronger is your usage of the term Aham when it comes to Aham Brahmasmi. Therefore, I have to learn to look at the body, mind, sense complex as anatma. Anatma, which is different from me, who am the Atma. And to understand this, Shastram says there are 5 features of anatma which you should always remember. So these 5 features, I'll give you Sanskrit names and I'll explain. We should commit them to memory. Because whenever I say I should exclude these 5 features from the usage of I, excepting when you are interacting with the world. That time, the I is a Vyavaharika I. What are the 5 features? One is that anatma is drishyatvam. It's an object of experience. Every anatma you can experience through one of your sense organs. So, drishyatvam. Second one is bhautikatvam. It is a material, inert principle born out of panchabhutas. The panchabhutas combine to give the bhautikams. What is a bhautikam? Where did we find the word?
Tattva Bodha? Panchabhutani?
Panchabhutani, how does it become pancha bhautikani?
By Panchikarana.
By panchikarana. You must remember all that. So, you are not panchabhutas. Ultimately, you are, but basically the body is a combination. So, post panchikaranam, therefore, bhautikatvam. So, first is drishyatvam, object of experience. Second is bhautikatvam, material principle, material inert principle. It's a jada. Then sagunatvam, you are endowed with gunas, sagunatvam. All sort of material attributes you have. That is, you're tall, you're fat, you're strong, you're thin. And you can add any number of attributes depending on what the material is that we are referring to. Then the fourth one is savikaratvam. Vikaram means change. Savikaram means with change. And therefore, anything material, any anatma is always subject to change. And the last one Krishna mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, agama payitvam. What does it mean?
Comes and goes.
Coming and going.
Coming and going. Second chapter. Okay. And therefore, these are the 5 features of anatma we should always keep in mind. Drishyatvam, object of experience. Bhautikatvam, material inert principle. Sagunatvam, having gunas, having material attributes. Savikaratvam, subject to change. Agama payitvam, subject to arrival and departure. Out of these 5, there are 2 which are mentioned over here. So he says, look at the sense organs. Each of the sense organs is born pritak bhavam, distinctly. What does it mean? Distinctly means one is born out of one guna of the Panchabhuta. So from Akasha is born what? Rotram. From Vayu is born what? Tvak. From Agni is born eyes. From Jalam is born the tongue. From Prithvi is born the nose. All this care of Tattva Bodha. So one of the gunas is employed. One of the gunas of each of the Panchabhutas is employed. And the 5 sense organs are born out of which guna of the Panchabhutas?
Sattva.
Tattva. Why do you say that? Because Jnanendriyas.
Yeah, they are Panchaga Jnanendriya.
Need sattva, and therefore they are born out of Pritak Bhavam. Pritak Utpadhyana is born. And each of the sense organs is capable of experiencing only one function. The eye can see color or form. The nose can smell. The ear can hear. The tongue can taste, and so on. But we have to remember that every one of the Panchabhuta is inert material only, right? That is why that Second principle, bhautikatva. It's an inert principle only. Why is it inert? Because the most fundamental form of matter is what? Maya. From Maya, the 5 tanmatras are born, the 5 subtle 5 elements are born. They are also inert matter. And I am Atma, I am Brahman. Therefore, Indriyana Pratak Bhavam. I am different from the Indriyas. I am different from the sense organs. Even though the sense organs are seemingly sentient, they are sentient because I bless them. Because I know that Shastra tells me that they are inert. And I am the Atma, I am totally different. So, Yamraj says, Indriyana Pratak Bhava. And then he says, Pratak Utpadhyamananam. These 5 sense organs are different from myself. I have to understand that they're all different. If my eyes are not, good, if my eyesight has problems, I should not say I have got problems. I should say my eyes have problems. Or the eyes which I am using in this body, mind, sense complex, they have got problems. For all this, Shankara has written a very beautiful 6-versed text called Nirvana Shatakam. A good text to practice this meditation. The fact that everything is material only. Then he says, Udaya Asthamau. Udaya Asthamau can be taken as Udayam means Utpattihi, being born. Astam means Pralayaha. So Shankara writes, Udaya Asthamau is equal to Utpatti Pralayau, subject to arrival and departure, which we said Agama Paitvam. Even when the sense organs have come and gone, I am still there. How? Because I am aware not only of the presence of the sense organs, I am aware of the absence of the sense organs. The absence of sense organs implies what? Absence of experiences. I am aware of the absence of all experiences. How can I say that? Because after waking up from Sushupti Avastha, I say I had no experience at all. So I am the witness of the fact that I had no experiences. I, the witness, do not appear and disappear. There is no agama apaitvam in me, the witness. But in the sense organs, there is. Because during Jagrad and Swapna Avastha, the sense organs are there. During Sushupti Avastha, they have resolved, they have gone away. And therefore, I, the Atma, have witnessed the coming and the going of the sense organs. And therefore, Matva, having understood all this, Dhiraha na shochati. The discriminative person, he does not have any grief in life. And this is what Krishna also said. What is the quote? Very famous quote.
Anushochanti Pandita.
Na anushochati panditaha. So, in our work, in our daily life, worry is not required. Yes, diligence is required, care is required, work is required, but worry is not required. Because Shankara adds here, Atmana Nitya Eka Svabhavasya. Or the Atma has only one character. What is that? Nityam, eternal. Now this, I think we discussed earlier also. There are 2 types of eternity, 2 types of Nityam. Do you remember? Parinami Nityam and Kuthastha Nityam. What are they? What is Parinami Nityam and what is Kuthastha Nityam? This has to be understood because Shankara in his commentary says
One undergoes transformation, another doesn't.
Is it Parinami Nityam Maya?
So there is absolute eternity and relative eternity. The relative is within the realm of Brahmanda, absolute is absolute at Paramarthika level.
yes. So Parinami Nityam means that the changing it is changing. It is eternal, but it keeps changing. From what to what? From Vyaktam to Avyaktam to Vyaktam again. Okay, the Parinami Nityam is Maya. Because it becomes the world, it goes back into the world not being there, and again being the world. And then there is a Kuthastha Nityam. Kutaha means the anvil, unchanging Nityam, unchanging eternity. And that is why Shankara adds here that Atmanaha Nityam Eka Swabhavasya. The Atma has only one type of Nityam, and that is what? Kuthastha Nityam. The Atma does not change ever. And why does he say that? He himself writes, Avyabhicharat, because of not having any modifications. And therefore, he says, Shoka Karanatva Anupapatte. One does not have a legitimate reason for grief, which he draws from Asocyan Anmashosham. Again, Bhagavad Gita. He says there is no legitimate cause for grief at all, because you are the Atma and you are Kutastha Nityam. Nothing ever happens to you. When nothing can ever happen to you, neither change, nor death, nor birth, what there is, really speaking, no cause for any sorrow at all. Which is why Krishna told Arjuna, hey Arjuna, you are grieving for that for which you should not grieve. That is the start of the teaching of Bhagavad Gita. So with this, we'll stop for today. Any questions?
Om Raviji, you said Shoka Karanatva, third word?
Shoka Karanatva Anupapatte.
Papatte. No. Thank
you. Is not logical to have that shoka. There is no logical cause for sorrow.
Right.
Om Acharya?
Yeah.
When we spoke about Jnanam in Gandharva Loka and Pitru Loka, it is to still be understood that mukti is not possible in those lokas.
It is to be understood as it is just not possible in the lokas. Therefore, the only place where you can get Jivan Mukti or Jnanam is two lokas, Iha and Brahma Loka. Iha Loka, Brahma Loka.
Thank you.
Okay. So,
Acharya, I have a question. I don't know if I should address it here or later on separately.
no, you can address it here.
It's to do with last time's
Okay.
mantra, where I kind of gotten a little, kind of stuck. So there was the conversation of Satya, of existence, and how the objects of the world borrow their existence from the Upadana Karana.
Yeah.
Right? And we spoke about how they borrow existence from the Parinami Upadana Karanam, which is essentially Maya. So I get that, I understand the concept of that existence and the fleeting nature of the existence and the dependent existence, essentially.
Yeah.
But when we, a lot of the times when we're describing Atma, Anatma versus Atma, and in the description of Anatma, we kind of to differentiate the two, then we give these examples of the gold and ornaments, the example of the water and waves, of the wooden desk. We're giving examples of Maya then, we're giving examples of Anatma then out there and not of Atma.
Yeah, because if you are going to look at the, the Vivarta Upadana Karanam, there is in the gold example, that is missing.
So that's what I'm saying. So isn't that kind of a little, isn't that a wrong? Because it is to explain Atma versus Anatma. That we give those examples, but then that is not the after all, finally, of course, Sarvam Brahma, but that is another understanding. But isn't this then kind of inaccurate to
see the golden necklace example you give for two reasons. One is to explain that name and form is really non-existent. Right? When you say there is a necklace, what you have done is, I don't know if you heard yesterday's, you have to hear it. There is something called superimposition, adhyasa.
Yes.
Okay, so adhyasa is defined very beautifully as vastuni avastu adhyaropa. On a vastu, you superimpose a non-vastu. So on a rope, you superimpose a non-rope.
No, which is correct. So that is the vivarita that we're talking about. But when
That's
we're giving,
vivarta,
when
right?
we're giving the gold and we're talking about, we're very specifically giving parinami upadana karanam as an example for vivarta, in fact.
No, there is no parinami. Parinami means that upadana karanam no longer remains the same.
But then why?
Parinami would be curd, milk into curd.
No. So then exactly that. Isn't that an inaccurate example that we're giving to differentiate Atma from Anatma?
No, we don't do it to differentiate Atma. We say that whatever is not Anatma, that is Atma. That is the definition of Atma. Tattvaboda says very clearly, Tat Vyatiriktaha. What is not Anatma,
Yeah, but
that is
later
Atma.
on, I think there are these examples that have been given very often, which I've also heard, and then we, very clearly give these examples of.
That is for our understanding, because you have to somehow convey. See, ultimately, when you reach a little further, you will realize that you really can't talk about Brahman at all.
Absolutely, these are limited examples.
Right.
Finally, at the
And
end.
therefore, the teacher struggles. Even Shastram struggles. So Shastram is indicating, that is why the neti thing is. The neti is the perfect example where after negating everything, what is left is Brahman. Which when you come to think of it, that ash which you use,
Yeah, I know.
sacred ash,
What
what does it symbolize? It symbolizes that I have burnt everything and what remains, that is Brahman. So the ash is actually Brahman. The remnant, which is what Shankaracharya says somewhere, what is left after you have negated everything else, that is Brahman. That is the only way to indicate. And therefore, differentiation necessarily has to start with Adhyaropa. And then the Apavada comes where you take away what you have superimposed and say, now that Vastu, which you cannot see, on which the entire world was superimposed, which I have negated, that non-seeable, non-perceivable world is you, Brahman. So initially what you are saying is correct. At the initial stages, we use gold, we use.
No, I'm talking about, and you know where I'm coming from, because I need to be convinced about it to be able to pass it on to somebody else. That's all.
So when you are in the initial stages, you should not introduce this concept. You should say, like gold can be thought of as Brahman, and the bangle can be thought of as the world. Because you have superimposed. See, there the Vastu is the gold. That definition, remember, superimposing the non-Vastu on the Vastu. So here in that example, the gold is Vastu, the non-Vastu is the name and the form. So in that example, and you have to say, if a brighter than normal student says something, you have to say that every example will have a limitation.
Yeah, I mean, we're using objects to describe non-objects.
What is non-object? Ultimately, the very word Maya means which cannot be described at all, which cannot be categorized at all. In fact, Maya is Yama, that which is not. Yama iti Maya. That which is not categorizable, that is Maya. And as I said last time, it is all right to be slightly vague about what Maya is, because you can never really understand Maya. That is, if you understand Maya, then you've not understood it. You cannot say, I have understood Maya. You can say, yes, I know what Maya is.
It's confusing.
Yes.
Okay.
So
thank you
good
so much,
question.
Acharya, for your patience and clarification.
Does anybody else want to add to that commentary of mine about Maya? Okay.
I am under the illusion, I understand Maya.
Sorry?
I am under the illusion that I understand Maya. That is meant I can make.
Illusion is a word which we should rather not use, actually. See, Maya, the problem with Maya is what, You cannot say it exists because Shastra has given you a definition of existence. Trikale tishtati iti sat, right? But you cannot say it doesn't
Yes.
exist. Why? Why can you say, why can you simply not say Maya doesn't exist?
Because it's there. We can see it.
Because
Ishvara
you are
exists.
seeing it. Everything
Yeah,
that you before you is
everything that
Maya.
we see.
Is
Yeah.
Maya. But that existence you know does not conform to Trikalatisthati. And therefore you can neither say it exists nor can you say it doesn't exist. That is why it is Maya. Sad, Asad, Vilakshana Maya. That which is not Sat and that which is not Asat. And Vedantics have got a very peculiar word for it. We call it Mithya. Remember that in no other darshanam, Dvaita darshanam, Vishishta Advaita darshanam, no other darshanam uses the word Mithya. For them, things are either Sat or Asat. We don't have that. We have an intermediate category called Mithya. So no doubt as we keep on doing the Prakarana Granthas, this will become more and more clear. So Prakarana Granthas are actually the place where the things are discussed in great detail. Okay, so with this we'll stop for today. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you
so
for your
much,
patience.
Acharya.
Om Om.
Sure, thank you.